that I thought would help others who were learning to sew. And then I got this comment. It felt really discouraging. There were so many things I wanted to say back. In the end, I just went with something nice and said that I don't know everything about sewing, and I am okay with that. Of course, not everyone knows certain sewing things, and that should be allowed. We are all learning. Literally, the point and the ability to learn is based off of the fact that you don't know everything already. And yet, social media can sometimes make us think that everyone else knows more than we do. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest are rife with sewing accounts, wonderful sewing accounts where you can get amazing inspiration. You can see other people's Pinterest boards of what's inspiring them. You might think they have better style than you. You see people are making on TikTok and Instagram and you think, I could never do that. Even the way that they might edit a video, you might think, I wanted to post something, but I could never get that editing the way that they do. It can feel discouraging. It should be inspirational, but for me, it almost halted my sewing journey. I do not want social media to ruin anyone else's sewing journey. Let's chat about how to get in the right mindset for your creative projects. Also, if you're brand new, I'm going to share some perfect places to start to avoid discouragement so that you can keep that excitement going. When I first started sewing, I did not know anyone in person who sewed. I inherited my sewing things from my grandma, who I unfortunately did not take the time to learn to sew from. I had one friend in my grad school program and we were actually remote. And so it wasn't like we were in person to for me to ask her questions, but she quilts. She has a very cute quilting Instagram. I'll put it up here. But it felt like I was kind of on this island. And so I turned, as most people do, to YouTube and Instagram to learn more about sewing. And what I found was amazing. I never would have imagined that there were so many accounts dedicated to making their own clothes, their own blankets, making clothes for their families, making projects for their house. There are so many beautiful things, and I fell in love with that side of social media. But there's also a dark side because it really starts to breed comparison. It starts to breed almost a contempt for your own projects. If you're trying to get into sewing and you are feeling that the only way you can be successful is if your projects are perfect because everyone else's projects seem perfect, let me just tell you that that is not the case. For example, I just posted this shirt. I made this morning. I finished making it and I am very proud of it. But what you don't see in pictures that I post is that when I lean over, it kind of gaps. I don't love that, but you can't see it in the pictures I posted. The bias binding is a little bit wavy. You can see that in the picture, but with a quick scroll, it might look like, oh, her sewing is perfect. It really is not. When I wash this shirt, which I'm gonna delay as long as possible, there's probably gonna be a lot of loose threads because I didn't actually do the bias binding perfectly under the armholes. That's just the truth. But when you see just a really quick snippet of someone else's project online, you might think, wow, they are so much better than me. Why are my projects turning out so terribly? When I turned to social media for all my sewing inspiration, I found that there was this amazing community of indie pattern makers and sewists that I had no idea existed. All I had ever known for pattern making was Simplicity and Butterick, and it opened my eyes to this whole other world that people designed their own patterns. But then it also made me really feel like the cool sewists, the ones who were younger, who a lot of them appeared to be my age, were only sewing things that were made by indie pattern companies. And again, that made me feel really inadequate because I just don't have the budget to be purchasing every new indie pattern. And of course, not everyone needs to or should post their pictures of what they're sewing, but that was something that I wanted to do. But there were some things that I actually didn't put pictures up of, not because I didn't like my finished project, but literally because I didn't want to tag Simplicity because I felt like I wasn't going to be accepted into the indie sewing crowd. I don't know if anyone has ever felt this way, but I would love to know if I am not the only one. After I saw all of these indie sewing patterns, I went ahead and I bought the Hallen dress from Paradise Patterns on Etsy. I opened it up and I was shocked because I had no idea how to do a sewing pattern, let alone print one out in PDF form, tape it together, all those things. And I let that stop me. Now, I'm saying that is on me. That is not on anyone else. It's a beautiful pattern. I still have yet to make it, but now I actually know how. That is on me for having a mindset that said, this is too hard. I probably won't be able to do this. I would never encourage that. And I would hope that today's version of me would be more ready to conquer a challenge like that. I was letting all the things I was comparing myself to, all the people that I was comparing myself to, I was letting that dictate the way that I was approaching sewing because I just wasn't ready for that kind of pattern. I did, however, have access to a lot of free sewing patterns. My mother-in-law gave me a bunch, but I was saying, no, I don't want to do those because that's not what all the other girls are doing, which it sounds silly saying it now, but I'm just owning up to this. I just don't want anyone else to feel the same way if you are getting into sewing. I also just want to give a reminder that it is totally okay to start small or to start big. One of my first sewing projects was a romper. I actually think I threw it away because I thought it was so bad, which now I really am regretting that because it would have been fun to look back and see my progress. But it's okay to start with a tote bag. It's also okay to just start with a dress. You don't need to do what other people are doing when it comes to sewing. This is your hobby and your project and the things that you are going to wear. So don't let comparison be the thief of joy in all of this and let you step back from trying to learn a new skill. If you are interested in following some Instagram accounts for inspiration, here are a few that I would suggest, but just try to keep an open mind as you're following these accounts. If you are into cool, colorful outfits, Layla Makes has an amazing Instagram. She shares so many modern indie patterns, but her fabric choices are always amazing. By Gracie Steele, she designs her own patterns and she shares a lot of behind the scenes of what goes into making patterns as a small business owner. One of my very favorite sewing accounts, Jerry and Stitches, her account just makes you feel joyful. Like, she is dancing and she talks about joy all the time, and you can just see that she actually likes to sew, and it makes it seem so much more fun. Every time I watch one of her videos, especially when I was in a stage of feeling discouraged about how my own projects were turning out, I was just reminded, what if I had fun with it? One more Instagram account that I like is Ford Wardrobe. She shares a lot of behind the scenes. She teaches people how to sew, which is amazing. And she also shares a lot of humorous things, which again, it just reminds you to keep it lighthearted and that it's okay to have fun as you are learning a new difficult skill. Let's talk about where to specifically start your sewing journey. If you are brand new, I have a few tutorial videos, YouTube accounts that I would highly suggest. Jess Dank, she will always be my #1 favorite YouTuber. I don't think anyone could ever surpass her because I really credit her videos to helping me learn how to sew. So in a way, I really feel like she changed my life. Her videos are amazing, and if you are not ready to follow sewing patterns, she is the #1 place I would send someone. She teaches you how to make your own patterns. I just use parchment paper and draw it out. She tells you where to measure your body and then says, add 6 inches here, and that's your waistline. And it really helped break down the sewing process for me as I did some of her videos. Just do your best, keep trying. If the math is wrong, it's probably you and not her, because I have made some of the projects and it wasn't fitting me right. I went back and redid it and I realized I had messed up a little bit. Another place to start is the Essentials Club. Her YouTube channel has lots of very easy to follow along tutorials, and again, she breaks everything down in so many really helpful steps. If you are feeling ambitious and you're ready for some pattern sewing, the Lane Pants by Sydney Graham are a very popular pattern, And what's great is she has a whole YouTube tutorial from beginning to end on doing that project. And so it really does hold your hand through the entire process. If you are sewing for kids, I suggest the Daisy Shorts by Tiny Folk Patterns. She has some beautiful patterns on Etsy. She has a lot of other ones that honestly are very big friendly. I've done a couple pattern tests for her before, and every step comes with a picture. She gives a lot of details. So again, if you're a beginner and you want something that is going to give you the beginning to end with pictures and easy to follow along steps, I would highly suggest Tiny Folk Patterns. Also, the boho dress from Tiny Sewing Company is a great place to start. Her products are also so beautifully done. Her website is so beautiful. I would suggest starting there as well. If you're sewing for kids, a dress is actually so much easier than you think it will be. I actually have a video about beginner-friendly sewing terminology in my last video. I will definitely link it below. Learning something new, if I can understand the language and the terminology, that's like half the battle to the learning process. So I would also suggest starting there. If you want to follow me on Instagram or social media, I will link those below. My handles are social cues, like SEW social _ cues. Just remember that the only way that you can get better at a skill or a craft is by doing something that is just a little bit harder than what you already know how to do. If you are doing something that's easy and you're not challenging yourself, you're never going to learn. That's literally how learning works. So don't be afraid. Just keep trying. You are going to get better. I know it seems so intimidating right now, but that is literally what the research says about learning. You got this. Happy sewing. If you enjoyed this video, please follow me with sewing tips, things that I've been making, but also some failures, because that is also weaved in and out of the story of sewing. Subscribe here on YouTube. I will definitely be sharing more helpful tips and just some camaraderie for all of our sewing journeys. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.